So the GFL has been a joke ever since it's been announced. Now we are getting reports of funding not being obtained. We have investors pulling out. We have fighters already not being paid, and they are looking at paying fighters on revenue share, meaning no money up front. So we're gonna go through the whole article. We got the manager Tony Ferguson and Uriah Faber, the two main eventers, talking about this situation, and he drops a lot of big points in this article. So if they interest you, stick around. Also, too, we recently passed 1,400 subscribers. Thank you guys for that. It really means a lot to me. Again, I'm not the best YouTuber here. I'm just a guy who loves the sport, likes talking about MMA, and honestly, like the way I look at this is, I'm just in a room with a bunch of you guys, just shooting the shit about MMA. So let's get into it. Let's mock the GFL. Longtime MMA manager details GFL chaos, says promotion is asking fighters to compete for free. When you're already asking fighters to compete for free and you haven't even had an event, you haven't even had a press conference, I don't believe. This company is done. This company was never serious to begin with. GFL founder Darren Owens counters that promotion has not reached any agreements and will resume operations as soon as possible. Um, yeah. This will probably be my most unhinged video yet. Global Fight Week is failing to honor its commitments to fighters in the wake of recent event cancellations, according to longtime MMA manager Lloyd Pearson. And I have a picture of this guy. This guy manages a lot of fighters, Tony Ferguson, Uriah Faber, Chris Weidman, plenty of others. He's been around MMA for quite some time. Um, I don't want to look at Uriah Faber. In a statement issued to Uncrowned Ariel Hawani on Thursday, Pearson, who represents multiple fighters signed to the GFL, accused the organization of failing to live up to promises made to fighters, causing them financial harm. Dude, I didn't believe they were going to be able to do half of what they said. The 50-50 revenue share, that was the biggest one for me. The moment I read the thing about the 50-50 revenue share, I knew it was bullshit. No, no organization will be able to run off a 50-50 revenue share because of how many factors, how many expenses go into making a UFC event, finding a broadcaster, making a deal with that broadcaster, then you have to take whatever profits you make, pay your fighters, pay your investors, and find a way to put money back into the company. MMA is one of the most difficult businesses to get into. At its inception, GFL, let's continue. I do that a lot where I just jump into the reading, but yeah, whatever. At its inception, GFL came on the MMA scene, seeking attention by promising fighters large sums of money. Many fighters relied on these promises. When GFL failed to deliver, have have been financially what have been financially harmed and forced to participate in prolonged fight camps for bouts that will now not occur. Um, yeah, that's the other thing too. A lot of these guys are older. A lot of these guys have multiple children. Some have adult children. They're time away from the home in camp, and they're not even going to be able to compete. Like they're not rebooking this event. Um, I gotta get through this article. GFL recently announced the cancellation of planned inaugural events scheduled for Los Angeles this month insisting that the events may take place in June while citing funding issues. Yeah, you're having funding issues before you even had a press conference. I'm not even talking about a single bout, a press conference. This is one of several troubling shifts, according to Pearson, who as an executive vice president and head of combat sports for Rainier Sports, represents multiple GFL fighters, including Uriah Faber, Chris Weidman, Tony Ferguson, and others. I'm not sure what other fighters he manages, but he manages a ton of these guys over here. GFL and their CEO Darren Owen began recruiting top level fighters who are way past their prime during the last few months of 2024, offering fighters large financial purses and guaranteeing the ability to fight 3 times during the 2025 calendar. While you're not even going to get started until midway into the year, if you do get started, you're not going to be able to do 3 fights. If PFL couldn't do 3 fights for fight, they can't even get their own fighters to fight at PFL. Then another conversation. How the fuck is a Silicon Valley funded MMA organization going to be able to pay these guys 50% of the revenue 3 times a year for however many fighters they have on the roster? Um, Relying on promises, many fighters, I just read that. According to Pearson, attempted Owens attempted to address concerns about the GFL's financial stability by circulating copies and photos of the GFL bank account showing they had over 20 million in funding. 20 million in funding. Remember this. Remember this. This this is where the borderline fraud happens, and I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not gonna outright say it. But you make the judge off of what it says. Uncrowned reached out to GFL founder Owen, who said in a text message that they had requested proof of funds from a primary investor. To do so, he transferred 20 million into our bank account to prove he had the funds. He transferred the funds out of the account the same day. We had a monthly schedule, typically in a 200,000 per month range, that he had been funding without issue until April. Whether it was the market crash or him getting cold feet, he did not fulfill his April obligation and subsequently halted our progress. Maybe it's because like there was absolutely nobody in the MMA community, in the sports world, and any kind of media that were saying anything positive about this organization. It's a joke. Your first event was a UFC fight night we had in 2015, pretty much, with the exception of like 3 different bouts. According to Pearson, the funding woes resulted in some fighters failing to receive monthly stipends that were contractually guaranteed to them. This came with no prior warning, Pearson said, and has been accompanied by other sudden changes in GFL's assurance to fighters. So why would you, as a fighter, as an established fighter, many of these guys have been at the top of the UFC, have been the champion, know what's that like, know what that is like. If I'm not getting my payment in training camp, why the fuck am I going to go into your cage and bleed for you if you're already not able to pay me the money that you promised to pay me? Like, dude, this is like you look at all of the promotions we had back in the day: Affliction, Pride, K1, K1's were kickboxing. You know what I mean, though. With all these organizations, look at what happened to them. Now, with apparent lack of funding for the GFL, Darren is asking fighters to compete for free. Get in the cage, get punched in the face, get strangled. For free, guys. Don't worry, we'll get you back on the back end. He has circulated a document showing a revenue share model for the fighters, a complete deviation for the contracted amount. According to some fighters, the GFL is projecting to make almost $4 million in this event at the low end. Okay? 4 million. We're gonna come back to that. Anyone who has been involved with fight promotion knows that this is unrealistic and flat out not truthful. The fact of these numbers are being circulated as reasonable estimates clearly demonstrates the disconnect between the GFL and their audience in the current market. Majority of people stream fights. Like I buy every pay per view now. I used to, you know, use certain sources. Nobody's going to pay for a GFL event. This will be streamed. Like it's the same thing as a Jake Paul fight. I put this in the same category as a Jake Paul event. The only difference is Jake Paul is young, has talent, and can progress. He's not a 40-year-old retired fighter. The offer of a revenue share in lieu of contract pay was also mentioned by former UFC fighter Alan Belcher, who on his Instagram page this weekend referred to the GFL as, for a lack of a better word, a scam. Belcher, he won the heavyweight title over at BKFC. He had a decent run in the UFC. Um, but yeah, one of the biggest guys I'd say they have over there. You already have him calling it a scam. And I think after one of your fighters calls your organization a scam, usually they get released. Look what happened with Pitbull. Pitbull was fired hours after he made those tweets. According to Belcher, after the initial GFL event cancellation, Owen offered him some revenue share and stuff. I would fight for a no, I would fight for a not a guaranteed purse, right? Who the hell would ever fight for a non-guaranteed purse? Nobody is going to do that. Unless, they are a young up and coming guy and Dana White says, hey, we're not going to pay you, but we're going to throw you in there with the top five opponent. You win this fight, you get a title shot with pay per view. That is the only way anybody would fight for free, I feel. Owen told Uncrowned that a revenue share model was one possibility that has been discussed informally, but no offers of that kind were made. In an effort to stage an event as soon as possible, potentially with a lower investment amount, they will. They will. Nobody's gonna put money in this right now. We have explored different approaches to achieving this. Owen wrote in a text message. We had discussed the possibility of fighters competing for revenue or profit sharing. However, we have not made any decisions or that, nor have we made any official offers to anyone. This is awful, dude. Like, it gets worse and worse. Anyway, he thinks he's defending this company, dude. Owen said the GFL is in active negotiation with a number of investors and plans to proceed with events when we have secured the necessary funds. As for claims that the fighters' stipends were cut off, Owen said that those who were eligible for those payments had received them through the month of April. We do. How are you eligible then? Like, how do you know if you're eligible? Say you're signing this contract, yeah, sorry. You're not eligible for the funds we were promising you. Dude, this is like the textbook of how to destroy a company before it even begins. We do have some players that were receiving advances I believe all that were eligible based on their deliverables were in fact paid for April. As of now, we have not breached any of those agreements. It doesn't matter what you legally and we legally have and haven't breached. Your company is destroyed. There's not a single person I play a GFL event. And if there is, show me them. In his statement, Pearson said that fighters are struggling with sudden shifts in not only the terms of their agreement with GFL, but also repeated changes surrounding event dates for GFL's inaugural show. In January, GFL conducted an extremely disorganized public draft process where the number of teams was unexpectedly reduced from 6 to 8. Prior to an immediately following the draft, fighters were informed that initial GFL event would take place in April in Los Angeles. Shortly after the announcement, the GFL moved the inaugural event to May 11th, May 12th, which was confirmed in official letters to fighters and bout agreements. Following the change, Owen confirmed there will be absolutely no more changes to the state again, reassuring bullshit, dude. Bullshit, dude. You're not gonna have this event. Reassuring fighters of upcoming bouts to continue with the strenuous camps. Recently, without prior warning, Owen once again changed the event dates to May 24th, May 25th. During this period, some fighters received bout agreements that did not align with the contract amounts, while others didn't receive bouts at all. Good lord, this is a fucking mess. Dude, I was too hard on Don Davis. I really was too hard on Don Davis. Yeah, Don Davis had to cut his contract. I mean, how? I always just paying people. Unless they're getting something. According to Owen, the total money between bout agreements and addendums did equal the promotional agreement amount for all fighters. Our goal is to honor all agreements we have in place. I don't believe we have reached any agreements as of now. We've had one athlete to date who has requested and received their release. We will resume operations as soon as possible. You're going to have so many fighters walking away from this. There's thus far been no official confirmation of a date and venue for any upcoming GFL events. Pearson called extremely alarming that any fighter would still consider participating in GFL bouts under these conditions. Two, two pervasive problems in the MMA community have been poor representation and a lack of solidarity between among fighters. We as leaders in the representation of fighters must continue to fight for our clients, including educating them against accepting egregious deals such as that presented by the NFL. Additionally, the MMA community must stand together and recognize that through solidarity, we can protect all fighters against fraudulent and predatory behavior by upstart fight promoters. These professional athletes must recognize. Okay. Um, the GFL needs to secure legitimate funding. Yeah, they do. So, yeah, there's really nothing left on this. What are we at on time here? We're at 20 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna keep it short though. Okay, so to sum it up, this company it's done. It's done. They're not gonna have an event. All of these fighters that were promised this money, I hope they get something from it. I hope they get something for going into camp. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have an event in June. I don't see it. Who the fuck is willing to pay money to see a bunch of fights we saw 10 years ago. They have nobody coming in that's a young guy, that's a touted prospect around the sport of MMA. Maybe they do. I hear nothing about that though. But you have the manager of your two fighters in both of your main events that you want to have already calling your shit a scam. And I honestly I don't want to see Tony fight. I don't really need to see Uriah Faber fight in 2025. And like I want competitive MMA. I want more than the UFC. I missed when Bellator was good. You know, around 2015 to like 2017. Yeah, they were all retired UFC fighters that helped. And they had fun fights. You can't take that away from them. Um, but yeah, this company is a joke. They're already losing funding before even really having a press conference. I know they had a draft, but let me know. What do you think about the downfall of the GFL? What do you think about the GFL failing to pay promised purses already before they even have an event? I'm interested to what you have to say. This company is a joke. It is the greatest joke in MMA. And I hope we get the update that they cease operations within the next week. Let me know what you think.